I'm going to read. So we've been talking about the force of giving, right? So we know that in the universe there's many forces, but all forces come from a singularity, right? From a point, from a source. So the way to see this is like this: is we know that through science, right? Like physics and quantum physics and quantum mechanics and those sciences, we have understood for many years, almost two centuries, that through the particles of atoms and protons and electrons, and depending on how friendly they could be aligned, life appears. Right? That's how we been taught. Been taught that there's some energy. There was a big bang, there's explosion. Things were flying around, got cooler, and then these particles somehow randomly clicked. And when they clicked, life appeared. Well, now there is a new way of thinking that is that no, life is the one who built everything else. So there's a source, and there's a new way of looking at it. It's pretty new, maybe 20 years is the theory, and it's starting to get a lot of, it's called biocentrism. Biocentrism, that's what the idea is. Life comes before anything, and the life is built in a conscious way. That is, life is being conscious. Consciousness brings anything, not the opposite. And that's, there's a lot of studies. For example, there's particles everywhere, but if nobody is conscious of them, they do not appear. They're in a probability state. Imagine a place where there's no, for example, if you ask me, Rabbi, you came to Kehilat. See, you're not here. You're somewhere else. And you came to Kehilat. And my answer is not that I was here or I was not. There was another answer. That would be kind of bizarre, right? Is the light on or off? In that type of world of unconsciousness, is not off or on. And that is very weird. That's why quantum physics and quantum mechanics takes, is a science of quirkiness. Our reality is always off or on. It's off or on, nothing else. But if you want to blend them in, it will be so hard to do that, right? So that's why we have been looking, and you probably saw a movie called the Law of Everything. The idea that there's a law, there is a rule that connects everything. Well, we've been looking for it as humans. We're trying to connect these two worlds, a world of probabilities and a world of left and right or up and down, right? So, but what we know now is that there is a source. So even the physics is talking about consciousness now, something that we didn't used to talk about only in the esoteric teachings like Kabbalah and Tao and those. But now we're talking about it more and more. So for us, the source is life. But in Kabbalah, we call that source giving. So that's what we've been talking about. So now that we know what that force is, what does that force means to us? If I say the force of giving, what we talked about last week? What is the product of the giving, of the force of giving? What does this force do at the end of the day? What was it? Huh? Well, it was a giver, right? So it was giving, but in order to give, what he needed to do? He needed a receiver, and this is the reason why we are created. So the idea, one of the questions of life is, what is my purpose? Well, your purpose is to receive this force. At least by Kabbalah, that's it. That's the only reason, is to receive the force of giving. In that giving is all that pleasure that is being given to you through your life. But it's not as easy as it sounds, because we have a hard time receiving things that we believe are not good for us. When we see something negative, it's very hard to try to receive it. But your only purpose was to receive it. But now you have this idea that you can say, I don't want that. And that's not why you were built. You were built to be a receiver. And now you're pretending to be something you're not. And that's where all the craziness of your life starts. When you're trying to be something that you're not. And that's what we're trying to figure it out. How to receive even when it sounds that it's not correct. Right? So I'll give you an example in the Torah. And we're having a discussion of a document that we are studying in the university. It's called the Didache, which is a document in the 650 to the 80 after Yahshua, so first century. And the question was about commandments, how commandments look. And so somebody says, King David sinned by having, that girl that her husband was at war. And I said, well, it's funny because the way he did it, right, he didn't interpret it that way. He was the king. And everybody who went to war automatically was divorced. So the girl that he picked was not married by the standards of the law. Because in the law of Torah is that if a man goes to war, a woman is divorced first. You have to divorce her. Do you know why? Torah is not very romantic, okay? Romantic is not a part of the Torah.
In case he dies, she can remarry?
That'd be nice, but no.
But widows were not seen. I don't know, it had something to do with being a widow.
No, widow will be perfect because that will give a status of the best woman ever in Israel. Huh?
Like the state, the country wanted the soldier to have the one priority of just going to war and not really caring about the family as much.
That's very, 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 very mindfulness. Huh? I like that idea, but no. I mean, that's a perfect idea. I think that'd be awesome because you want to make sure. That's why you're right, though. There's a commandment that says that if you be married less than a year, you're going to go to war. So after a year, you can go to war. So you're right about that. But it's not the reason, though. The reason is that women do not have the right for land if she's married. Right? So if he goes to war and he dies, now she has no power of that land, and his uncle, his brother, any man closest to her in family can take the land. And she's now left with no land. And his kids and everything are on the streets.
But if she's divorced, she will keep it?
She will keep it. Because that's a legal document. Interesting, right? The law is pretty... The law is really intelligent to protect women. Because that's what it was, just the protection of women. That way, if he dies, she can remarry, she can do whatever she wants, but that land would never be to another man. It will stay in the family for her children. And this you keep them wealthy, because land is what makes you wealthy. That's fine. The man does not get the land. He can bring his land because he probably owns land and put it together. And then her children with him will split that side. But the children from the other husband split the other part. So everybody gets a land because land is wealth in Hebrew idea. Does that make sense? Well, King David, right? He figured it out. So he said, oh, she's divorced, but by the law, she's free to marry whoever she wants. So he takes her. But then she's pregnant, and he says, oh, I need to do something about this. So he calls the husband and says, listen, I want you to live with your wife, and in other words, marry her again. And the guy says, I don't want to do that because I'm still in war. I don't want to do it. And then King David said, oh, okay, cool. And then he gives him a little note to give it to the general to put him on the front to kill him. But he can do that because now he did not do what the king wanted to do, and the disobedience to a king is death.
But the baby was his, right?
Huh? He's David's. What I'm saying is he hides himself well to the commandments, so that's not his problem. His problem is going to be his intention. That's what his problem is. His problem is not the doing. The doing, he did it exactly how Torah says. So by Torah, nobody can condemn him. Nobody. There's no way by law.
So it was like bending the rules but not breaking them.
Yeah.
To his benefit, right? He bended the rules to his benefit.
So then the prophet comes. The prophet comes and tells him that, right? Remember, there's a man who had many sheep, but then he took the sheep from the guy who only had one. Remember that story? And so King David gets it, but he knows he's safe by the commandment, right? So the idea here is that what I wanted to tell you that is because the force of giving, right, is that Yahweh is going to give you everything, but it's you as a receiver to have the right intention. That's the key. The intention is called KABBALAH in Hebrew, right? So how do we do that? So we're going to read now another part of Ashla called the revealing the Creator. So I have to reveal the Creator. If I'm going to receive Him, I must reveal Him. Right? Okay, here it goes. And again, everything that happens to you, everything is given to you is for your own benefit. You might not like it sometimes, but you were built to receive it. Okay? So here we go. So, revealing the Creator. This is his speech. Now let's talk a little more about receiving the Creator. When Ashlak describes the purpose of Kabbalah as the revelation of His godliness to His creatures in this world, he means that the essence of Kabbalah reception is to reveal or discover the Creator. So what is receiving the Creator means up to now? What is he saying? What is the purpose of receiving the light? Yes. To get the what? Yes. Yes, it is about life. Because remember the source of everything is life. So what does it mean that I must receive the Creator, the force of the Creator? What does that mean though? By what we just read right now. Yeah. My intention is to get close to Him. That's all it is. That's all what the light is asking you to do. Receiving Him is to become one with Him, with the light. We're going to find out what that really means, but it's really to have that relationship with the light. So he says, understanding that tight link between reception and revelation is the key element to require to understand Kabbalah. Given the abstract nature of Kabbalah, that your five senses cannot perceive the forces it describes in Kabbalah, often uses metaphors to describe its concepts. So what is it saying there? It means that whenever I'm going to give an example, it's not real like that, but because you and I, our five senses are not capable of really understanding the abstract, I have to put examples that you can understand, but it's really not true. It's not the true essence of it. It's not literally. There's something more there. Okay? So, because sometimes it's going to sound very easy, like, oh, I get it, but it's not really what you're thinking. The Shema? Yes, but again, what I don't want you to think about is these statements. God first. What does that mean first? How do I put God first? What is that? Because then we start thinking about religion. Oh, I need to put church first. I need to put that. That's not what he's saying. What is putting God first? Is revealing truly who you are. The essence of you is putting self first, putting the light first. So here goes. So Rabbi Yahshua describes the wisdom of Kabbalah as a sequence of roots. Everybody knows what sequence of roots is now, right? What does sequence of roots means? Like, okay, yeah. It means what? Cause and effect. Cause and effect. Yes, if you go back here, the first, you get out of the church into your left side. Yeah. If you're already on Whittier, you're lost already, so be careful. Push it. There you go. All right. So the key is, right, that what is cause and effects? What else? Consequences. Yes, every event, everything you do has some kind of effect, positive or negative. So it doesn't matter what you do in the sense of you always will get a consequence. So when we say in Kabbalah, everything that happens to you is your fault, doesn't mean always negative. It's your fault that you became wealthy. Because what he's saying, the word trying to say is, there's an effect, there's a reason why you are where you are. It's not your parents, it's not your teachers, it's not your country, it's you. You must learn that there's consequences of everything you do. So here we go. So he says, Yahshua describes the wisdom of Kabbalah as sequences of roots. He uses a reference of nature roots to show that what happens in our world doesn't begin here, but in the spiritual world, right? So it's not roots like roots, but it's explaining that it's coming from somewhere. In Kabbalah, the metaphor of nature extends even further. Discovering the Creator means discovering nature. The Creator is nature. So what is he saying there? It's everywhere, right? So actually, if you pay attention, you will find the light everywhere you are. Nature is, actually the word Elohim, which we translated God, has the same value, which is 85, which is the word nature in Hebrew. So Elohim and nature are the same word. So God, that force called God, and nature are the same. So nobody should be blind. There is something happening if you really look around. That's what he's trying to say. The Creator is nature because you perceive only a tiny fraction of nature. The goal of the wisdom of Kabbalah is to disclose reality is entirely in the whole gamut, so all complete. Discovering the whole reality isn't just about expanding your view of life and your understanding of it. If you can understand all sides of nature, you can reach far beyond your present physical life, far beyond boundaries of your five senses, as if someone has removed a blindfold from your eyes and allowed you to see true vastness and beauty of the world. The wisdom of Kabbalah is designed to lift up to another worldview while opening up a whole new mental and emotional level of existence. Any questions about that one? Pretty straight? Okay, here we go. So promises. You may have read about charms and amulets used to ward evil spirits. Not here. You may want to learn how can meditate on a number of a letter and hit the jackpot next time you are in Vegas. Sorry. You may have heard a lot of big promises about the wisdom of Kabbalah. Can and will change you forever. It will, but this change has nothing to do with luck, superstition, or any sort. So what is it saying? Yeah. But what is Kabbalah is not?
It's not magic, it's not a genie.
It's not a genie, right? It's, if I put my red string, then I'm a superhero now, and nothing's going to happen to me. That's not what Kabbalah is. Some people take it that way. Some people come to me and says, Rabbi, how do I, I want to get a new car. What letter should I meditate? It's called go to work. That's what it means. Work hard. You'll get your car. You don't need a letter. Because people take it that way, right? But we do that all the time when we were more Christian, right? In Christianity, we would say, oh, pray harder. Fast, and you'll get what you want. No. That's not what fasting is about or prayer is about. If you want physical world stuff, you need to do physical stuff. Right? If you want to be more wise, well, then you need to do more in the intellectual intelligence and study and then act upon those things. What I want you to kind of know is that Kabbalah is not, charms and witchcraft at all. It's very logical. And when we do it correctly, it's going to look magical, but it's not. It's going to be what is supposed to happen. Does it make sense, that? Okay.
So it's more of a change of perception. It's more of like a change of perception that leads to different actions.
Yes. Yeah, it's just like 2 times 2 is 4, and there is no magical to make it a 5. But if I change the equation, I could make it 5. So the idea, Berg, would say something like going to the movie theaters. In my time here, there was already multiple theaters, but in Guatemala, when I was in Guatemala, in my time, there was only one movie. You were stuck with that movie for a week or more, right? So you will go and you say, what movies we're going to watch? Well, the only one is there. You will go in the middle of the movie, thing was not good. But man, you were stuck because couldn't get out. You would lose your money and say, okay, there's no more movies. Anywhere. It was the same movie. So, you were stuck with it. That is kind of like what religion is. Right? Where they tell you more like, this is the only way, and if not, you're done. Kabbalah, it says no. It's like the movies now. You can go to a movie theater where they're showing 30 different movies. Right? So you go to see Bambi. Right? In 4D. You're going to feel the fire or the forest and the whole thing. Right? But in the middle, you feel sad. You're like, oh my God, I know how this is going to end. So you say, I don't want this. You can get out and watch something else. That is what Kabbalah is saying. Kabbalah says, because the world is created in cause and effect, there is many effects, right, that I could choose by understanding the cause. And that's it. Simple. You can change of channels. Your TV, your cable has a lot of channels that you will never see. This is not what you want. But they're there. They're available for you. So you just have to know what you truly want. So Kabbalah is really into really finding what is your source of your desire. And so in that desire, you can move and do what you need to do. So if I ask you with one word, what do you want? What would that be? I'll give you 1 minute to think about it. One word only. Everybody. Free. To be free is two words already. Just one word, free. Okay. Travel. Money. Health. I'll come back to you. Next. Success. Yes, Miss Leo. There you go. You don't know? Ask him. He knows. All right. Clarity. Hey, what are you hiding? One word. I'll come back to you. Success, cool. You're really wow. Okay. It has to be the hair. All right. Balance. Who was what you said? Oh, that's what you said? I thought somebody gave it to you. Still waiting. So at the end of the day, that's the hardest thing that soul has to really look at. It is the desire, the true desire, right? So, like I told you at the beginning, there's a lot of different types of energies, different particles, different nature, but all come from one source. If I know the source of my desire, I have the answer. And if I have the answer to my desire, that's what I'll do. The reason that a lot of us are very unhappy is because we're doing totally the opposite of what truly we want to do. Because we don't know. So we cannot just randomly picking. Could be money, right? Who also want money? Money, balance, great. Great answers, Clarity, even though it wasn't yours, was great, right? All of them are great answers. Traveling, who doesn't want to travel? But at the end of the day, is that really what you want? Is that truly your desire in your core? Or is traveling more like a freedom? Escaping from something? Or money, the ability to have or whatever. So it becomes more, the more I understand the source, the easier it is for me to do it. For example, you might say, I want a house. I want a house, I want a house, I want a house. And when you get the house, you're like, I don't want the house. Because you were looking more like a home. It was family, what you were saying. Yeah, but what that means, more love, is it just that somebody caring for me physically, or is it giving me the space so I can grow?
So it's more pinpointing to a specific situation, and we do it broad.
Yeah. Well, we're in the branches instead of the root. So Kabbalah is going to teach us in the class to really go deeper and deeper and deeper. Not that what your answers were wrong. They were pretty good. I would like all of those things. But is that truly what truly is my source of my desire? Because we know now is that you only do what you truly desire. But if you don't know what you desire, that's why we're stuck sometimes and feel stuck, even though you're doing it. You might already doing what you're supposed to do. You just don't know it, which is the weirdest thing. So that's what we're kind of looking at. So let's continue reading. Is that okay? We have 15 more minutes. Salud con leche. How does Kabbalah work, and what do you actually receive? Good question. All right, here we go. Imagine having no senses. You cannot see. You cannot hear. You cannot smell or taste or even touch anything. How will you know that the world exists? How will you be aware that there are objects and people communicate with? How will you even know that you exist? Would there be any fundamental difference between the senseless you and one who has died? Kabbalah teaches that everything you experience comes from your contact with a human and natural environment. I'm going to repeat it again. Kabbalah teaches that everything you experience comes from your contact with a human and natural environment. Right? Are we okay with that one? So what does that mean? What does that mean to you? That statement is a pretty big statement in Kabbalah. Everything that I experience comes from your contact with human and natural environment.
I don't know, I feel like that's, the way I understand it is like everything you experience is in the physical world, but then what about like dreams or visions or things you experience through like meditation?
But it's because you experience it somehow in the natural and the human world. How do I know a car if I've never seen a car? How would I even imagine it? Because they say, if I don't have those five senses, and I don't have them at all, how do I know I exist? That I'm different from somebody who's dead, not having these five senses.
So would it be kind of, right? That we're not born like that. We learn from our parents, kind of like that. But that's how we experience life according to our environment and what we learn. I mean, from our parents, right, or whatever.
Yeah.
That's how we learn to be. That's how we.
So think about it. The people you have around, well, not these ones, but the people you come from, right? That nucleus, that family where you were born in, right? Are they the best way to see reality? I mean, when you grow, you're like, what? You believe what? You do what? And that's the thing that you are figuring out. But imagine that your experiences just come from humans and from your environment. That's it. And the environment and the humans are kind of connected. So your communication and interaction with the outside world activates your sensations, your emotions, your views, your actions, your experiences. So whatever exists within you remains passive and unfelt unless it comes in contact with something on the outside. Does that make sense? So you didn't experience falling in love until you saw something outside. It was always there. It's not like it got created in a moment, but it felt the moment that you had a contact. So how limited is our contact in the five senses? Super limited. So we really haven't felt that much. We are kind of like in a box. Imagine a little box and you're inside that little box and it has 5 holes. And you can see through the 5 holes. That's all you can do. And they put you in the middle of the Milky Way. How much can you see? Nada. You're very limited. So this is why Kabbalah, one of the laws of Kabbalah is that you cannot, and I repeat, you cannot trust your 5 senses. What you're hearing, you only hear it how you want to hear it. That's it. If you are always being attacked, or you're always being feeling that people don't like you, or that they love you, and they talk to you, you will interpret it depending on that contact. And that's why Kabbalah says do not trust your 5 senses. That will be one of the rules. Okay, you say, okay, that sounds great, but then what? How do I do it without using my 5 senses? This is the question, right? So he says, this does not mean that nothing exists inside you if there is nothing outside. It means that until you come in contact with the environment, everything is a potential and not an actual fact. It's exactly how I started the class. Right? If I am not conscious, everything is in a probability state. When I'm conscious, then I can pinpoint where the particle is or where is the state of my mind is, and I can focus on it. So I guess Kabbalah, what helps us is to be aware, to be conscious. Beyond, for example, Kabbalah says that there's upper worlds, worlds in worlds, and that there is beings, and there is forces beyond these 5 senses. If I can somehow have contact with that, it's going to change my desires. Or activate what is truly inside of me. Just like falling in love, right? I could say, oh no, I would love to fall in love, But if you don't know who that person is, it could be anybody. You don't know. Until that person appears, then you have that contact, and then whatever is inside starts flaring, and then you have a contact. What about is that you haven't really understand the upper worlds because you haven't seen or have that touch with that upper force, that force of giving. If you can have contact with it, it's going to, right? It's going to activate something inside of you that is going to communicate and to have a relationship with. So there's an example of that. So after Yahshua died and he resurrected, there was two guys who were walking. They were going out, getting away from Jerusalem. And they were talking about Yahshua. I said, man, such a nice guy. I thought he was the Messiah. But they killed him. That's all they were talking about. So Yahshua appeared to them, but they didn't recognize him. Right? So he says, what are you guys talking about? He says, about this guy, who got crucified. What guy? What? You haven't heard? Where were you been? And he says, no, tell me about it. So they told him about it. Everything in the story sounds okay. Then the two guys decided to eat with him. So they went to a place and they sat down, Dennis, Jerusalem, they sat down there. So they were doing some pancakes. As they were eating, they say, Yahshua starts talking to them. And the more he talked with them, they're starting to feel something. Something was not right. They couldn't hear before, but now they were eating, which is when you connect. Eating is the best way to connect with people. Honestly, it's just, you really can do things, when you're eating with somebody, right? So then, when they were like, something's wrong, Yahshua disappeared. I don't know if you know the story. He disappeared. And then they say, oh, wow, that was Yahshua. And then both of them look at each other and says, both say, we felt the fire. We felt something inside. That's beyond your five senses. Because look, you're talking about falling in love again. If you fall in love, because falling in love is really it's a natural thing in your brain. It's like a cocktail of neurotransmitters, dopamine and serotonin and endorphins all together. And then you're like drunk, pretty much. That's what it is. So you like this girl or, a guy, whatever, and so for a while you're there. But if nothing happens, then you kind of like fall off, right? Because it didn't happen. And then you see that person about 4 months later, you go, wow, he's not that handsome. Actually, he's pretty ugly. And you wonder, why did I fall in love? Because you are not, right? It's your five senses taking control of you. So Kabbalah says you cannot do that in the spiritual world. You cannot use emotions that way. Emotions are built through your five senses. But spirituality is something beyond. In Kabbalah, through this book, we're going to discover some ways to discover that contact. Because see, I don't have to, nobody tells me, you have to do this. You have to come to Kehillah, you have to read. Nobody. It's something that is in me. Something that's a desire in me. And that's the best way to follow the light. Because your parents can force you. Well, they might force you. I don't know, to come. And yeah, they'll force you until one time when you are old enough and can say, I'm not going no more. And it's nothing your parents are going to say. I mean, they're just not. But that means that you never really met the true light. You love the light as you were, as combined, as a congregation. But you never really had that connection, because the moment you had that connection, you will never be the same. Even if you don't come physically, you will feel him. You will feel him that he's like hunting you, because there's something, a glue to it. And that's why I wanted to teach you this way, because I can force you until you can, you be grown enough not to come. But hopefully, even if you don't come anymore, and you are in Paris, right? You would think, the light is calling me. And you will do things kind of weird. Like you say, you will call, it says, hey, when is Shabbat? I want to do Shabbat here in France. It has happened. I have people like that. They has called and says, I need the prayers. But you told me you didn't believe. Who cares? Bring me the prayers, please. Right? Because there's something inside, there was a connection. So this is what this is. Okay,
If you like a marshmallow, Rabbi, and you're going to eat the marshmallow, someone tells you it's not kosher, you spit it out. That's the connection, right? Because you
yes.
respect the kosher.
Yes. No, it really, and you do that automatically.
Connection because you already know what is there.
Yeah, it's a very natural way. It's not religious. It's not like I feel that I'm going to go to hell because I ate it or not ate it. It just automatically my body doesn't get, And something is consciously, unconsciously. I tell you, one day, Alex and I, we went to eat at this. We were coming from a soccer game, and it was about maybe 12:30, and he says, let's go to get some tacos. And I didn't really pay attention. I said, okay. So we go, and then it's 12:30 in East LA, and he says, the best tacos ever. And I looked at how they were doing them, and I go, but it's touching, they might be touching porky here. And then he says to me, oh, no, he does it different. But I looked, right, and I was like, no, look, he has it here, and nothing to, I said, okay. So, right, consciously I was like, okay, so it's not touching it, fine. I ate it. I had a horrible night. I threw up, everything you can think of, I did. Right? And it's because my body already understands, and it changed my DNA. I cannot handle pork. I never really ate that much pork, but I ate like pepperoni, pizza. And I used to like a lot of the soup, clam chowder, stuff like that. I used to like it. But now it gives me, I can't handle it, even looking at it. But that's again, that is personal. If you would do it, I would never, even though you're a rabbi, I would not tell you no. That's not me. And that shouldn't be nobody. You respect people's food, even though for us might not be food. You respect it. So and pay it. You want double cheeseburger with triple bacon. I'll pay it. Because you are in the five senses. But the moment you start finding more of that, and again, that's only one level. Because of all the things you might be doing good, and just that one, it hasn't guided to you yet. So it's not black or white. I mean, you said you develop it. Okay, I'm going to read the last part and we go, okay? I think that guy got lost. Don't tell him, though. He's probably in Whittier, running around for Whittier already. Yeah, just let you know. Espero que no se haya enfrentado. No. At that same time, the actual fact of a person's experience to the same environment is, of course, different. No two people react the same way in given situations, even when all the external conditions are the same. For example, most people will be very happy if they suddenly won the lottery and receive millions of dollars. If you were already a millionaire, however, you may not even notice it. It turns out that if the external circumstances are the same, the reason we react differently must be that our internal circumstances are different. So this is why we don't judge, because everybody has a different internal way of how is seeing the same externals. Okay, we're going to leave it there, and then next week we'll talk about the sixth sense. So we'll start talking about that other sense that's going to help us to get closer to the light. Huh? No, tell me. Oh, in psychology, you mean?
I think I know what he's talking about. It's like taste, right? Yeah.
Like you're doing all at the same time?
It's like sweet, sour.
Oh, I see the taste. Yeah. All right. Okay, that was very good. Thank you. All right, people. See you later.